Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Star Wars spoiler review here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinnenberg. Today, I am breaking down the highly controversial and built-up Episode 3 of the new Disney Plus Star Wars show, The Acolyte. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and ring the bell. I talk all things movies, TV shows, and box office. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you're tuned in to when new videos drop. I've been basically dropping videos daily over the last couple of weeks, so stay tuned for more videos for the remainder of the week. I'm doing every single Wednesday here on the channel Acolyte breakdowns, as well as the episodes come out Tuesday night, and I do reviews on Wednesday. If you also let me know in the comment section down below. Almost forgot to tell you guys that. What are your thoughts on this episode? It feels like everyone who has seen this episode has a strong opinion on it. If they hate it, if they loved it, if Star Wars is destroyed. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. I've had some great feedback from you guys from my review of the first 2 episodes. Let me know some more things in this episode. Also, please like the video. So I am someone, if you weren't here, again, this is a full spoiler review, by the way, for the entire series so far of The Acolyte, but I'm mostly just zeroing in on episode 3 and giving my general thoughts. So if you're new to the channel, this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, I did do a spoiler review of episodes 1 and 2, and I was on the more positive side of The Acolyte. I didn't love the start, but I definitely enjoyed what the setup was of the show. It was a fresh, original Star Wars element that did not connect to the Skywalker saga. I think there were definitely some major flaws in both episodes. But overall, I didn't think this was awful. I didn't think it was a pack of garbage, anything like that. So all week, even if you try not to, it's hard not to hear the buildup from critics, people who have seen the screenings for episode 3, that a lot of people think this would destroy Star Wars for a lot of people. And there are a lot of people, reviewers, who hated the episode, saying, everyone's get ready for this controversial episode. So this episode already had a lot riding on it for me, all in the negative, honestly, because of, but again, I wasn't totally bought into that because sadly, a lot of people have been torching the show for non-story reasons, torching the show due to its, for gender reasons, for race and cultural reasons that I am just never going to take part of. To judge a show because the showrunner is a woman and the lead actress is a woman and it's a very diverse cast, I think is so offensive. And so many people online, reviewers, news outlets, have clickbait things to tell you something's bad because of those reasons. And I am just sorry, that's not me whatsoever. It's not who I am as a person, and I'm not doing that at all during the show. But I did not like this episode, and this was the most frustrated I've ever been watching a Star Wars episode ever of television. I had to sit and think on this for 45 minutes after I watched it. I couldn't watch a single person's video and to break it down or anything like that before. I watched it when it came out around 9 o'clock Eastern here in the East Coast. And I watched it and I had so many different opinions on if things worked, if they didn't work, and I had to think about it. I had to sleep on it. I woke up today, had to think about it some more because there were so many big swings taken in this episode. And I think some of them worked, most of them did not. Now, I'm not going to be on the side of this killed Star Wars. I don't think this show killed the fabric of Star Wars or killed anything that happened in the first 9 movies. And but I do think there are some major problems here. So from a production, everything looked fine this episode. Here's why I want to get this out of the way. The one thing that I hate myself for saying, but I have to say it because it's a review, and I do have to say it, but it's the one part of being a reviewer, critic, whatever you want to call me, that I hate doing. And that is talking about child performances in a bad way. What I will say is one of these child performances was excellent, that I really enjoyed. The other, these are actual twins in real life. The other twin, for me, I'm not going to go to specifics. I don't want to crap on kids personally, but one of the kids' performances worked for me and one of them just didn't. And that already didn't really get me through the episode in a good way. My first major issue that I had with the episode is the way that the show has portrayed the Jedi. The Jedi is something that all of us have grown up on, even through the flaws. All of us have always wanted to be a Jedi. And this episode's all about Osha. Basically, she doesn't want to be with this be a witch or use the Force for those reasons. She just wants to be a Jedi, and the Jedi is an outlet to still have some power, but to get away from May and get away through her family and all these things. But the way they're portraying the Jedi, I'm not a big fan of in the series. They were kind of idiots in the first 2 episodes outside of Soul, because I explained why in that video last week. They kind of just felt like creeps this week. And I think the prequels did a really good job at balancing, even though the prequels are very flawed movies, some bad, whatever you want to say about the prequels, they're all flawed from a story character perspective. I think they did a really good job. This includes Filoni's Clone Wars and Rebel shows too, that the Jedi were definitely doing everything for the good of the people, but they had some very clear flaws about the way they went about their business that could lead to the rise of the Empire. It wasn't that the Jedi were 75% bad, 25% good in the way of their thinking, and that's why an empire could rise. They did a really good job balancing. There were specific Jedi who are doing the right things, using the code in the right way, and there were some flawed in judgment, all of these things. And I don't think that the Acolyte is doing a good enough job at portraying the Jedi as these safekeepers who people can trust. And we know from Clone Wars animation that they take children at a very young age to train them. And for me, from a writing perspective, there had to be a better balance in this episode, that the Jedi are very arrogant to think that every single person in the Republic who's a kid who has Force sensitivity needs to be trained, and they get first dibs at that. That element of the story is genius, and I think that is excellent. But the other thing they throw in there is this creepy vibe that when they show up, they're very intentional. They're BSing this group, this cult, as they say. And the Jedi actually came for me more as a cult than a group of people, for me. And I know cult is a group of people, but I just didn't like the vibe that the Jedi were putting out they were kind of just forcing the kids to do this. And while, Soul says to Osha later in the episode, you need the guts or the courage to tell the truth, what you want to do, he was kind of using her to get to that point. And I don't like the portrayal of the Jedi. I think Ling Jun-jae what I mean is, from a writing perspective, the acting is very good from the Jedi. I mean, Ling Jun-jae and Carrie-Anne Moss, there's some really good actors here portraying the Jedi, especially Ling Jun-jae, who learned English for the role. He's excellent. And I think that's my biggest problem with the episode, is just the portrayal of the Jedi. They came more off as creeps to me, who are stalking Force-sensitive children, and without any hesitation, taking them away from their families to train them. And because they're running the Republic and they should get first dibs, there is such a balance here of the dib part I just talked about and them being creeps, that I just didn't like the creep element of it. It took me out of all these scenes of the Jedi, because it just left a bad taste in my mouth. I like the idea that there's these witches. Now, these are not the witches of Dathomir, but another version of witches who have the Force. For some reason, they call it the thread. All of that stuff I actually enjoyed. Jodie Turner-Smith, excellent actress, is excellent here. She was clearly the strongest performance in this episode. Mother Inasaya, excellent. She has really good one-on-one conversation with both Osha and May. And I enjoyed her very much in this episode. I very much enjoyed the character. All of that stuff worked for me. Now, what I will say is the controversial part clearly is this dyad that Disney is running with after creating this idea in Rise of Skywalker, with the idea of Rey and Ben Solo being this dyad of the Force, and that's why Palpatine wants to take their souls from them. And another huge element of this episode is, like Anakin Skywalker, May and Osha were created through the Force. Just like that, there was no father, and they imply, Anastasia implies to Coral that she created them. She says, I created them. So somehow and obviously Anakin was probably, we believe, to be created through some dark side force. And that sounds like a very dark side of the thing to do. So the question is why, this is very similar to Anakin, except there's twins. So you're mixing in the creation of people through the Force and then creating twins to have a dyad, or the universe creating it for a dyad. So I don't think people are saying this kills the specialness of Anakin Skywalker. I don't want to go there yet. I want to see how the show continues to explain it. And if the show ends and they've killed off why Anakin Skywalker is special, I'll come on here and bash the show. But I don't want to say that with episode 3. I think they are working in murky waters with having someone create these two characters through the Force. One obviously is bad. One's good to obviously have the balance, trying to find the balance. And Anakin was just one person who had both going on in his head. So that part of it, I'm very torn on. I'm more leaning negative on them doing that. But again, I think the biggest problem also, if you see with reviewers too, is I don't want to, with TV shows, you have to see the full thing play out before to have, for me, a strong opinion on storylines, because the storylines aren't done yet until the season is over. And we're only in episode 3 of 8. And by them showing the events of Osha being taken by the Jedi, just from her perspective, because the key thing here that we have so much more to explore with this backstory is we see, Meg getting mad at Osha. She starts the fire, but obviously that fire didn't seem like it would be enough to kill everyone. The burn marks were not on the witches when Osha and Sol run by them. We're just flat out told that from Sol that, May started the fire. She killed all these people. She's dead, and Osha's the last one living. We didn't see any, we saw May getting mad, and then we see May kind of wanting Osha wanting to know where she was at the end of the episode. It didn't seem like when, out of nowhere, May's like, I want to kill you. It didn't seem like May to me. Maybe she was being controlled by some dark force, something like that. Because the May who said, I want to kill you, and the May in the last scene of the episode felt like two totally different people. I hope it's on purpose. If it's not, it's a big flaw. I feel like we didn't see any from May starting the fire. We didn't see her until she went back to the tree. So we don't know what May did for the part of starting the fire, locking Osha in the room, to making it out. So we don't know how all this stuff is. They're clearly trying to see who is actually the reliable narrator. I'm sure could get some more scenes from May's perspective. Sol just pops up out of nowhere because, again, this episode did not give any clarification on why would May straight up kill these 4 Jedi for just taking her sister away. I feel like and she made the whole thing about that they attacked first. So say from May's perspective, at least, she started a fire in that area, that at least the Jedis did something. So we definitely need May's perspective. It's all from Osha's perspective. And that's the perspective that I guess Sol has also told Osha, but it's also the stuff that Osha has seen. We do need May's perspective. I'm sure we're going to get multiple more flashbacks to this part. They spent a whole episode on this flashback. So this is a frustrating episode for me because I know what they're trying to do, show one perspective and then let the mystery. It's kind of a mystery show trying to unsolve what really happened on that night. I'm really not happy with the way they're portraying the Jedi, and with the way the story is going, it does not seem like they're going to put the Jedi in any good light. And I don't want the Jedi to be perfect people, because they're not. Because if they were perfect, we wouldn't have the Empire. We wouldn't have anything past the second episode of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, I think if Star Wars, if Jedi were perfect people, there would be no Star Wars. But there are clear flaws and cracks within the Jedi Order. That's why that story is really impactful for so many generations of the prequels and the original trilogy and all of the Lucas stories and Filoni stories, really, for example. But The way they're portraying the Jedi here makes me really nervous because it's all negative, in my opinion, here so far, the way they're portraying the Jedi. And I'm very fascinated to see in both if it goes in a bad way or good way, how they continue to portray the Jedi in these final 5 episodes. So I did not like this episode, but I didn't hate the episode. What I'll say is there are ideas on there that I'm not totally on board for, but the show has plenty of 5 more episodes to get me back on board with particular storylines, characters, performances, and things of that note. But I will say is this did not get me excited to watch this weekly. It made me very nervous, honestly, because I've never felt more flabbergasted, just frustrated with another, even though this Book of Boba Fett is worse than this episode. There are so many other Star Wars live action episodes that are a lot worse than this episode. This is not the worst episode of Star Wars TV. This is not the end of Star Wars, but I could definitely see some cracks in the show, and it makes me it's very murky, and I'm very nervous for these final episodes, what they do. So that's my thoughts. I like giving general thoughts. You've all watched the episode. I don't want to break down story for story because you saw what happened. But what are your thoughts? Are you with me? Just frustrated? Don't think it's the worst thing in the world? Or do you think this will destroy Star Wars? Or I saw a couple of people online love the episode. So where do you stand on the Acolyte episode 3? Are you excited for the rest of the show? Are you going to stop watching after this episode? Let me know. I'll be back next Wednesday with another breakdown of episode 4 of the Acolyte. More reviews coming daily here on the channel, so please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon.